Hey, welcome back to Happy Little Node Trees. I'm your host, and today we're talking about all things filters and scatter and bloom, and we're going to find out if we can do something better than Pro Mist. Because I'll say this, it is always better in this digital age to get the best possible image and not put a filter on the lens. You bake that in, we're stuck with that when we get all the way to post. But there are options that exist. You probably heard of Scatter, or now there's Hazy by Film Convert. It's baked into Film Look Creator. There's also the free version of Bloom in Resolve. But I have, you can see on the timeline, a variety of clips all set up that we can look at. So of just seeing what the image is, let's just bring up our gallery over here. And a new still album, and we're going to just take a still of this. So this is Car with no bloom, as you can see. This is, I think it's John Woo. Maybe I should have checked that before putting the label on there. Woo Works, I don't know. He had a power grade of stacking in linear the blur kernel, so you can see down here each one of these next node. He's got different settings for each of these kernels. He has a couple different variants, a 50 millimeter, a 20 millimeter that he's kind of worked out as power grades that you can just drag and drop in. Works in linear, so you just go from your timeline gamma to linear gamma, and then back out to non-linear, and it just sandwiches in. And so you can see if we play the still of the before and after, you can see where it's affecting and how it's lighting up the shadows in those trees up there, right up on that hillside. The other option was in the Discord for color nerds that everyone knows that I hang out in. I came across this option, but it's a similar thing. It's a blur chain. If we show the compound node, you can see here is a blur chain of various strengths, and if we could just work through them using a Gaussian blur up here, you can see to create stacked layers of Gaussian blur. And then this is even more of a compound node in a compound node. Let's see what's in here. So yeah, and then this is heavier blur on top of blur to create a blurry blur image. And then it has more diffusion and things like that it has going on to create what it wants to be like Pro Mist. And so is that better? And we can see we're playing the still side by side, looking at this photo. Mostly a lot of that bloom is coming off of the highlights in the trees, and so there's some on the car in that shot. The next option after those two free stacked up options is this one from next clip. This one is scatter or film look. This is the film look bloom. Or did I skip scatter? No, here's scatter, Pro Mist. So we can see here's this, and so this one is claiming to be, we can grab that still, better than scatter, which is this one. We can play the still side by side, and you can see on the left we have scatter, and we can scrub across, and you can see a lot more bloom coming off, like a lot more lift and brightness in those shadows using scatter. And now, to be honest, that's what I personally use versus just for simplicities, but it's all set up in scatter like that. And we have this one over here. This is the Film Look Creator. We've turned everything off and set it the custom preset to clean slate, and then gone in and turned only on bloom. And so you can see very light, very nice, very clean, hardly does anything at all. And then we have Dehancer, which if you've seen any of the other videos I've ever done on Dehancer, we can just disable it, turn on. It does funny math on, you can see it on the road sign over on the left. Let it still and go. Here's the free option. If you look On the left, up in the road, you can see how much that the road markings are bleeding into the black of the road from Dehancer. But Dehancer is also doing a lot of stuff to your footage even when you turn it off. So it's putting it into Rec 709 and bouncing it back out. And that's before you even turn the grain on. And this is a new one from Hazy by Film Convert. I don't have a paid version, but I have the trial version. And you can see we can compare it to that free one in-house, how it's working. Very similar. It is a tad brighter across the board. And yeah, all these have settings that could be dialed in and changed. I haven't really played around with Hazy too much. I personally use Scatter, so there's that. We can kind of hop through. This one is similar. Turn off that still. And grab this still. When we go through, I have it all the same setup. You can kind of see how, oops, Daisy. Just line this up again. And scrub across. So we're looking at that John, that power grade version. And just seeing how it does. It just brightens up some of those shadows. So yeah, that is the simplified question and answer of what's going on. So these free versions are power grades. You have to stack all these blur kernels up on top of each other. They're built in to Resolve. And then they also have different amounts of key output in terms of how they're layering in there. So you have to pay attention to that as you go through next note. I have a link to, if you want to try this power grade out, I have a link to his thing so you can go pull it. But otherwise, let's just play through and see how it looks. We already looked through these individually. We can go kind of look at this and then feel like that. So if you ever want to come back and scrub through, this is a free way to kind of see what all these look like and all these do side by side. But yeah, so the question is, what is better than ProMist? I personally am of the fan that we do that in post. I know in the old days, that was the way you had to do it for film. You would put a layer on the lens, and then the end result was that you would end up diffusing the negative, and then you could also do diffusion between the negative and the print, which is something that we don't really tackle. So the question is, with these different modes and these different models, what is the best tool to make digital post-production diffusion? I mean, I haven't done too much with Hazy. Filmo Creator is free. The node power grades are free. I think unless they're part of the studio option and whatnot. But what you get with like Scatter and a couple of the other ones, Scatter gives you the option of, do you want to do ProMist or do you want to do anything else? So like that power grade version is geared to ProMist, or you can pick other ones and have different settings and tweak things all you want. There's so slight in the differences between all of them that it's kind of one of those things. Like, I like the simplicity of Scatter, being a single node. You just drop it in, you pick your settings, and you're off to the races. What I don't like, and that's one of the things I don't like about the super complex power grade version, is yeah, it's doable. It just gets cumbersome, especially if you want to explore things like diving into, what if we invert and negativize the image like that, and look at it and how Scatter works in the opposite, and so creating a whole different alternate workflow. I also like the simplicity of Scatter or even Hazy just being very simple setups, because where I put them in the tree kind of matters. Like, do I put them in the beginning where it's more like being on the lens before I ever get it in post-production, or do I put it closer to my look dev? Those are all questions and choices that you have to answer. Let's go to this one. So here's Scatter. And then one of the things I like to do is sometimes you add a node here and you just go blah blah blah. And we're going to do invert. like so. I'm just going to invert this. And I'm going to do serial, and we're going to take copy, paste, and layer mixer here, like so. And we're going to do dish, and we're going to do that. And we're going to actually make that a parallel mode. And we're going to do copy, and we'll paste. Now we're working on scatter in the opposite land. Isn't that fun? So we have Davinci wide and Davinci wide gamut, and that's cool. Then there's other things that you can play around with. I've just been thinking about it the other day of what if we go down this crazy rabbit trail of what if it was working in a different space? So not just inverted, but let's change this to a CST instead and go from color space. Let's go from here. Where do we want to go? Where do we want to go? Yeah. So we want to go from Davinci wide gamut to HSL, and then we want to take this copy, and we're gonna none there. I'm gonna copy. I'm gonna put this over here, like show HSL. I'm gonna swap that. Now we got funkiness going on, but that's because you can see in this other mode where that scatter is going on and where it's blooming. Funkiness. But that's just, playing around. What if we do one more thing? What if we just, kind of do this, kind of do this, kind of do that, and then say we're going to go from HSL to HSV. And then we gotta do the opposite land of that, so we gotta add a serial. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna swap that. And I'm gonna put it back. So now instead of putting, we did some hippity hop jumping around to trick it into putting the scatter on an HSV node. I don't know. Things to think about, things to play around with. But yeah, is this better than ProMist, the actual filter on a camera lens? I think so. I think between the free options that exist, you have way more flexibility, way more creativity of taking that pure sampled RGB sensor value and then being able to manipulate it versus having that baked in and dealing with that later. Is it going to be exactly the same? And part of it is like, yeah, people like to use the ProMist filter because it's easy to take the log footage, just slap a Rec 709 LUT on and call it a day. But if you're wanting to be creative in your color grading, finding a way to slot scatter in, finding a way to slot halation in, that is something you should do here and not bake it into the footage. But if you're going to be just simple, you're not watching this video to be simple, so I doubt anyone's like that. Anyways, till next time, this has been a Happy Little No Trees. Have a great day.